What is up, guys? It is Magnet back here with another Legacy of the Void cast. Today, let's take a look at a very interesting game for many reasons, and this is going to be HTOMario as the Red Terran versus Avilo, who's the Blue Terran. And many people are chuckling right now because they know exactly what this match means, but I'll explain this for those of you that don't. Both these guys are really popular streamers in North America. Both of them have the claim to fame of being the exclusive user of mech in every matchup for Terran, even back when it was not common or popular, or some would even argue ideal. For the most part, it's really hard to say who's really better between these two guys, and everyone always has the one or two of them in their corner. So this is what we're seeing in Legacy of the Void today, is we're seeing these two guys face off. By the way, this replay was provided by HTOMario. Please do him a favor and check out his stream. He does stream fairly frequently, Legacy of the Void games, all kinds of stuff. He does specialize in mech, so check that out. There's a link there down below, so you can check out his stream and say thanks for sending over this replay. So here we go, guys. I wasn't paying enough attention to know what type of build openers these were, but I'm pretty sure these guys were either gas first or gas at the same time as barracks. Like we've talked about before, though, that doesn't really seem to matter in Legacy of the Void, since you can basically go gas whenever you want and take your barracks. Either way, it looks like HTOMario is just a tad bit ahead, so he was probably gas first while Avilo was not. So we will see what comes of this. By the way, quick note about Legacy of the Void. What I've noticed so far is that Blizzard's really trying to push people into playing mech, but the interesting thing is that both these guys have been kind of the OGs of mech for quite a long time. They've been doing it ever since the beginning. And by the way, something funny going on here, a little bit of trolling from Mario. He's actually taking Avilo's gas. So this is pretty funny. He's actually going to let this thing finish, which he's even going to repair this. This could even be some in-game BM. And there's the lol coming down from Avilo, just trying to slow him down there on the gas mining. Mario obviously already has 2 gases, and I was really curious why Mario was building 2 geysers when I knew he already had one. So kind of just trolling him there a little bit of BM between these guys. There's been kind of a, I don't know if I would call it an intense rivalry between these two, trying to be this claim to fame of being the only mech Terran across the board, and maybe the best one that only plays mech, but we're going to probably see some pretty funny stuff. Cyclone immediately for HTOMario, which makes a lot of sense considering he did have the faster gas and the double gas. Avilo gonna get in here. I'm not exactly sure what he saw. Let's check it out. He just saw a factory, didn't quite see the add-on, but considering he saw just the 2 Marines, no command center, he could probably figure this is gonna be a Cyclone opener. So we're gonna have to see how these guys make use of this, because this is kind of a weird matchup wherein it's hard to really make the Cyclone do a lot of work if you're facing it up against like a bunker filled with Marines or a siege tank or something like that. So that can be a little bit strange, but we're going to have to see what happens as the first Cyclone is now making its way across the map. Avilo, in the meantime, he got the better of the build orders in terms of economy. He does have the faster expansion by this point, so he does have that coming up. Mario adding a second factory. Avilo adding turrets, and I don't know why. Maybe he thinks that a Banshee opener is possible, and Banshee openers against turrets and a Cyclone are very, very bad. So at least if he was expecting that, he'd be okay, but these turrets are probably not really going to do much, considering Mario's totally not interested. Second factory from Avilo as well, so we're seeing both of these guys get into that mech route, which we totally expected, and we're going to see mech versus mech, which you don't typically see in TvT, at least historically, so this should prove to be fairly interesting. By the way, something Mario's really known for is his excessive greed, dropping a 3rd CC here really quickly, even having 2 command centers at a time going up. We'll have to see what he's able to make of that. But by the way, a quick note, just so you guys know, me and Mario actually do live in the same city, maybe about 20 miles apart, so we have definitely had our fair share of exchanges and conversations over time, so I do know a lot about this guy's playstyle. And a couple interesting things from Mario is he will just make command centers to no end, and he will often have times where he's dropping like 5 or 6 factories, at a time. So this guy has some definitely interesting tendencies, casted a lot of this guy's games, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot more of him on my channel as time goes on. But really, this is a quite passive game. Mario just has these Cyclones hanging out here. Avilo is just sitting back in his base with the Cyclones. Now it's kind of just a matter of greed versus greed, as Avilo is adding his 3rd CC as well. both of them knowing that they probably really can't do a whole lot, considering they don't have medevacs, they don't have any means of dealing damage to one another as it stands right now. And I've seen a lot of weird TvTs where it really just boils down to a lot of Cyclones and some Hellions, but it's strange to see the interactions with the other units from the other Terran if they decide to go mech as well. And my mouse is freaking out just a little bit, so I hope it's not disrupting the cast too much. We're seeing a couple of, or rather a Marine come up here to check to see if the 3rd Command Center has landed quite yet, so Mario does know that he's slightly ahead in that manner, considering he can see the other one. The Cyclone's going to come down here. It'd be hilarious if they actually picked off the Command Center while it was transferring, but that would be very unlikely, as Avilo could recover to that. But so far, let's take a look at the unit counts. 6 Cyclones to 3. And of course, if you ever outnumber your opponent with Cyclones that badly, it's going to be a pretty bad trade. And I'm really curious to see how this is going to evolve over time, because it could become one of those situations like Muta versus Muta in ZVZ, or Phoenix versus Phoenix in PvP, where the only solution is just to keep making more Cyclones, and if you try to switch off of it, then you're just going to get overrun. In this case, Mario is kind of running a little bit of a contain on Avilo until he can bust his way out. The interesting thing from Avilo, he's actually just using this barracks to target out the lock-on from the Cyclones, hoping that Mario stuck around long enough to foolishly get his units locked onto and killed before time went too long. So, didn't quite work, but I guess it was an interesting idea. By the way, here's Mario's greed. It's 6 minutes and 30 seconds. He's already got a 4th CC on the way. Avilo hasn't even landed his 3rd Command Center yet. So this is just a perfect example of how greedy Mario can be, and it really just punishes you hard if you let him get away with it. The best Avilo can do right now is just sending out this medevac, seeing what he can get done with it. By the way, those are some strange signs. I've never seen that before. Kind of distracting, actually. But Mario is, or rather Avilo, excuse me, is now the one adding on tanks, trying to break up this unit composition just a little bit. The unit composition from Mario, still only 10 Cyclones, and that's it. Absolutely no mineral-only units to this point. Gonna have to see if Avilo's multi-prong Hellion play is actually gonna do anything. So he's gonna roast up a couple of drones here. No blue flame on the Hellion, so that's a little bit interesting. A couple of Hellbats dropping here in the mineral line, so kind of a cute play from Avilo. Getting a few SCVs killed here, but the problem is that these Cyclones are fast enough and they have long enough range that they'll just kill these Hellions no problem. But Avilo taking a decent little supply advantage here, about 13 supply advantage, but we'll have to see what happens in the main fight when these guys start to clash. As the Cyclones do come back, they can recover this quite easily. Avilo still manages to get out with that medevac boost, so he's okay for the time being. +1 happening for both of these guys as well. Avilo's just a tad ahead, so overall, Avilo's ahead in pretty much every way except for economically. He just barely landed his 3rd base. The 4th base from Mario is now mining, so he's effectively a full gas base ahead, assuming he was actually mining these, but we'll have to see if he's able to get on top of that. These unit compositions are getting pretty weird though. 4 tanks from Avilo, only a handful of Hellions, it looks like about 6. Cyclones starting to push up here, seeing what they can get done. The tanks totally zone them out for the time being. Hellions can't chase because they'll just get locked onto and kited for the longest amount of time. So not too much happening here. SCV patrolling, checking for a 4th base, so Mario knows exactly what he's up against. Avilo's 4th Command Center is happening right now, but he's not building it over on the side, and I'm not totally sure why. I guess due to the immobility of his unit composition right now, which is definitely something that the Cyclones offer. Look how fast these Cyclones kill these rocks, by the way. They have pretty decent damage output. But still, the unit composition from from Mario, LOL, is 100% Cyclone right now. So, just 4 factory Cyclone, which appears to be about what you can afford. Maybe 5 factories or something on these 4 bases worth of gas, considering he can't quite spend all of his gas for the time being. But Command Center starting land here for Avilo. Maybe he can try to get a little bit of a run by with the Cyclones, but he's actually just sending them back into the middle of the map. Really kind of a passive game from these two, and not too surprising considering typically the Mech-Terrans of old. And by the way, HTOMario going for a little more BM, dropping an engineering bay on top of the spot where that 4th base would want to land. But I was just saying that both these guys being extremely passive, which is not surprising from Mech versus Mech. Here comes the attack as Mario does move up, trying to pick off some Avilo units here, and you can see the Cyclone range is actually pretty decent. You do have to keep these moving all the time, and the best part about this is he did catch the tanks unsieged. So Mario just like wrecks that entire army easily with these Cyclones. He's able to move into this base, the tanks are all totally exposed. You can just roll these right up in their face to get rid of their range if you wanted to. All these Cyclones getting pretty red, but at the same time, there's not much going on here for Avilo. And Mario with the BM once again, just saying, you bore me so easy, and targeting down this base. Avilo just says lol, and with the typical return BM, and you can see this is a feuding rivalry between these two guys. But at the end of the day, what I really wanted to show is hopefully people from Blizzard are watching, in that I see a lot of TvTs that are basically only Cyclones, and the person that does not have a lot of Cyclones, they get outranged because of the upgrades and whatnot, as far as keeping the Cyclones alive and not engaging too hard with them. But this was a perfect example of how problematic that can be, as Avilo was trying to balance out his unit composition, whereas Mario just said, yeah, forget it, I'm just going to go for Cyclones, and I'm just going to kill you with Cyclones as soon as you're not sieged or you don't have the greatest of angles with your army. So just checking out the kills on these Cyclones, each one of them really outperforming their costs, especially considering they're killing mech units. But I just hope that this meta tends to change, because Cyclone versus Cyclone, like I said, it can be equivalent to like Muta versus Muta and ZVZ, and those games can be really silly. One battle will often end the game. But I thought you guys would maybe want an update as far as what's going on in TvT right now, and as far as the feuding rivalry between these two players. So for this game at least, HTOMario, it has prevailed. Again, guys, check out his stream if you want to see more of his games, because he does run all kinds of weird mech styles, doing things like Tank Mine back in Heart of the Swarm. But I hope you guys at least enjoyed the game, and can give you a little bit of insight as far as what's going on in TvT right now. I'll be back with more casts really soon, so check them out, and I'll see you guys soon.